Hey guys, today's story is about a person trying to use D&D to proselytize his friends. Warning: this post might delve into some light racism and religion. I'll try to leave the religion as vague as possible, but some of you might still recognize it. If you're religious, I mean you know ill will. The DM in the story is simply an example of taking religion too far and forcing it on everyone to the point where it became uncomfortable for all parties. So, this is one I've been sitting on for a while now. I was a freshman in college when I first learned to play D&D, and I joined a group where we would play twice a week, and occasionally the players would try their hand at their own campaigns. For the most part, this was really fun seeing everyone's different DMing styles, and there was a good number of us at the table, but the only ones really relevant to the story are myself, of course, playing as an artificer Grom, although I played him more like a rogue than anything else because I was still unfamiliar with the game at the time. And then we have that guy turned DM, someone who always played paladin or cleric and did stupid stuff on the regular. For example, when he was an Oath of Redemption paladin, he once planned in depth to set fire to an innocent refugee camp during the apocalypse in a game, and was very vocal and defensive about his religion. I won't go into what religion it is, but it's extremely popular only in my specific part of the world, and I was even a part of it for most of my life until I left it a year prior. So, needless to say, I was familiar with the in-speak. Likewise, several other players at the table were also former members, and even had names straight from their holy book. We began with a completely random beginning that straight up invalidated each of our backstories. We were all teleported from our own respective planes to the middle of a field, and in introducing our characters, two of the players exploited this sudden plane shift by having sex at the time of spawning in. It was all in good fun, and they were in no way detailed or explicit, but the DM didn't see it that way and snapped, interrupting the character introductions, meaning my character was never introduced. The DM described how we saw a large group of dark Native American-looking tribal warriors running at us from the south, with their weapons drawn, which rightfully made our level 1 butts try to flee. You can't run away. Why not? Because there's a force field keeping you in combat. Ridiculousness aside, we shrugged and started shooting from the distance when a tall, muscular man, a priest of his people, came walking calmly into the fray. He looks Native American, but with fairer skin than the heathens that attacked you. And in one hand he holds the DM's holy book for his real-life religion. Racism aside, all the players looked at each other with incredulousness. The priest then started casting fireballs at the heathens, killing them each very quickly, and whenever they would shoot at him, the arrows were deflected. One of the players decided to try firebolting the holy book out of the priest's hand, but the DM said that it definitely wouldn't work since the arrows were being deflected. But he could try. And try he did, and got a nat 20. The DM scowled and conceded that the holy book burnt to ash, but they had plenty more in the guild's storage. It was only after the priest finished dispatching the warriors that he turned to us and asked, "Would you like to join the literal full name of the DM's real-life church?" "And what if we say no?" Then you die." Rolling our eyes because we all knew how this was going to go, we relented and begrudgingly joined his religious guild. The DM even admitted that we weren't supposed to run from the fight, because otherwise it wouldn't have been won for us. We weren't supposed to be able to stand a chance on our own. And nothing eventful happened for the remaining few sessions of the campaign, and I don't even remember most of it. But in the next session, we were sent out to war with the other dark-skinned natives, and we were given permission to recruit our own armies to help in the fight. So we all envisioned this cool, all-out onslaught on both sides, with the PCs in the midst of it all. Instead, what we were given was a good hour of sitting around while the DM rolled for the squadrons, updating us in 1 or 2 sentence quips every 5 minutes or so about how our armies were faring. Finally, when the war was over and we won, he divvied out a ton of gold, which got us all excited. However, he then told us that some of it would go towards funding the guild. He even called it tithing to parallel his real-life faith. We agreed, as, after all, we were given armies by the guild, so it was only fair. However, this brought up a new problem. Immediately after subtracting the tithes, he told us that we needed to pay the armies. The problem is we didn't make enough money to pay the percent tithing before the armies, leaving us with not enough for the latter in this case. I respectfully pointed out that technically you are allowed to pay tithing after taxes or necessary expenses, to which he snapped that apostates shouldn't pretend to know anything about the church. But whatever, we made it work. We were in debt, but we set out on ships back for home, despite not taking boats here in the first place. And then, suddenly, our ship got hit by something, and we all rolled deck saves to avoid being flung off. A few of us failed our saves, but as a grung, I couldn't be picked up by the fighter, Arakakra, without poisoning him, leaving me with little way to get back on board. Thinking on my feet, I pulled out some sort of staff or stick that I had and got picked up that way. Unsatisfied, the DM made us all roll again, as whatever hit us rammed us again. I fell off and tried to use the same method, but the DM said that the stick must have been knocked into the ocean this time, so I was stranded until they readied a new life preserver. The orcas, as it turned out, is what they were, began attacking me. They would bite at me, and every time I would make them roll a con save against getting poisoned. I also stabbed at them with my poison daggers, again making them roll saves. However, despite orcas only having +1 con, they somehow always succeeded, even across all 8 to 15 times that they could have been poisoned. I get that it's only a DC 12, but it still seemed impossible. However, being new still, I thought it was just luck, but I didn't realize just how lucky that this would have to be. So, there I was, stranded in the ocean, getting bitten repeatedly by seemingly poison-immune orcas, while the Arakakra contemplated risking his last bits of health to save me, and the bard had used all of his spell slots on Healing Word for me to stay alive. Regardless, I eventually died and had to make a new character for the next session. The players were just as annoyed with this campaign as I was, and between sessions, we plotted to use a spell that one of them would get in the next level to return to each of our own respective dimensions. The DM heard of this, and although I had work that night, they did try to pull it off, but from what I heard, the DM stopped it with some reverse Deus Ex Machina type of setup, and after that session, they never actually played that campaign again, although we all agreed that it was definitely for the better. And even the DM realized a lot of his mistakes, and tried to DM just a few months ago, where he actually did do a much better job, creating a genuinely fun and engaging campaign. Well guys, I'm gonna be frank, I'm not sure if they should have given this guy a second chance. But apparently, things have improved, and the DM might have even learned from a few of his mistakes. And needless to say, don't try to use D&D as a way of proselytizing. But in any case, that's the end of the story. Hopefully you enjoyed, and as always, have a good one.